Hi, it's Barry Z from Barry Z One to One, talking one to one with the cast and creator of Mad About the Boy, right?
Glad to be here, Barry.
What is Mad About the Boy about?
It's a musical with gay songs from the 1920s to the present.
It's a gay musical history lesson, right?
Pretty much.
Yep.
And we want to be one to one with them, so they should be one to one with you by seeing this show.
Yes.
Of course.
Come be 1-to-1.
I thought this show tonight changed the title from Mad About the Boy to Kiss of the Spider Woman. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Why did I say that? And why do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, because a spider dropped from the ceiling, and I kissed her.
Did you?
She was very gorgeous. She was gorgeous.
She was. How did that happen? Did you rehearse that or prearrange that?
Yeah, we paid a couple spiders off to descend from the
Right
ceiling.
at Act 1 finale.
Yeah.
What exactly happened?
The lights came up, and there's a lovely spider smack dab in my face. And, I mean, it's better to acknowledge it because the audience sees it, so why not make it fun and part of the show?
You know who it was? Cheetah Rivera.
Yeah, I know.
Am I right?
You are dead.
Be checking on your show here.
I'm see what's going on here. See what's up and coming.
And somebody told her. Somebody told her that this was a performance of Kiss of the Spider Woman.
She was
That's why she showed up.
She was confused,
She
but
also wants to know if she has any royalties due.
we'll talk. We'll negotiate. I mean,
Negotiations are in order.
Okay. And who created her web? Anybody know?
Charlotte?
Charlotte. Charlotte did the web tonight. This was Charlotte's web.
She's a great costume designer.
Yes, let me talk to Chip DeFar first. Did I pronounce your name right?
Of course, sure.
Was it shortened from Chip DeFarwoods?
I'm at a loss for words.
Funny, you look Jewish.
Thank you.
All right.
It doesn't matter. Let's talk amongst ourselves.
Let's talk to the camera there and to our audience. Okay.
Sure.
This show is incredible. It's just incredible. This is my third time here, right?
Yes. You've been here from the beginning, Barry. Yeah.
And I can come back twice more. My husband works in the area.
Come back anytime.
Oh, my God. So tell me about this great show called Mad About the Boy. How did you develop this? How did you do the research for it? How did it come about?
It started at a little theater festival of mine. I threw it together, the first version, within 3 weeks while we were rehearsing it. Somebody else dropped out of the festival, and I had a hole to fill, and I had this knowledge of old songs, gay songs from the 1920s that nobody knew existed. And I said,
How did you know it existed?
because I'm into this old music, and I'm gay, and it had the specialized knowledge, so I said there were gay songs from...
Wait a minute. You're gay for pay, right? Am I right?
No pay. But there were gay songs in the 20s being written in the blues singers in America, in Weimar Germany, in Cole Porter, Noel Coward. And I said, if we threw this in one show, it would be interesting. So we tried out a really quick prototype for a 50-minute sketch. And Tommy Toon walks in. He's won 9 Tony Awards, and he says, "This, you've really got something here. It's really good. You should develop this into a real show." And I thought it would be fun.
How long ago was this?
I'm losing track of the time, but you were there at a little thing at Shoshama Theater.
I was there.
That's right. And in the meantime, I was doing other things. I did the George M. Cohan show and the Irving Berlin show and stuff, but this was still in the back of my head, and my dad kept saying, do this show again.
Well, I met tonight. How old is he now?
91. He said, I want to see that show, so you better get that show going.
You
So,
didn't charge him a ticket, did you?
no. No.
What'd you say?
That's a yes.
And we got this wonderful cast. I held some auditions, but some of these people, some showed up randomly for auditions, some were recommended to me, some I had seen at showcases and things or other performances, and they stuck in my head. Maite, I had seen her a couple of years ago in the AMDA showcase. I knew I wanted to work with her someplace. Maite then recommends Toby, and I'll say anyone Maite recommends is fine. Cody came in and just knocked me out on a cold audition, and I said, come star in the show, so sometimes that happens. And we had this wonderful actor who I respect so much, Ray DeModest. He looked at Cody and said, he's on his way. He's got it. He's on his way. And I said, that's good.
So this show is how long in the making?
I'm losing track of the years because we're developing it, workshopping it. But I think we're about where we need to be right now to take it to the next level.
But it's in a period of a 10-year, whatever, inception to performance, right?
Yeah, something like that. The first tryout was done within about 3 weeks, and then I got so busy with the Cohan shows I've been doing all over the country, and the Urban Berlin and the Fanny Bryce shows.
Which I have covered.
Yes, I know. And Seven Little Foys, you've been there for all of our stuff.
I give birth to all these shows, right?
Listen.
I only have too hard because I am overweight.
Happy Mother's Day.
Oh, yeah, right. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you.
Our wonderful choreographer, Raina Hurt, she's 21, but you covered, when we did our Seven Little Foys, she was on your show. We did like a hour with you, and she was dancing up a storm at 14 in that show.
And now she's doing what on this show?
She's choreographer of this show. First time she's choreographed a show. She's done other shows with me as a singer and actress. She was in the Urban Berlin Ragtime Review and my Seven Little Foys and so on. This time I said, Raina, be the choreographer, and she was brilliant. So
tell me how you did the research for this show, Mad About the Boy. Wait a minute. Chip DeFa's Mad About the Boy.
That's right. Chip DeFa's Mad About the Boy. Barry, I wasn't even trying to. It's just stuff I picked up over the years. I would interview...
From what, from school?
No, I mean, partly from life. Like, I would interview an old jazz musician like Benny Waters, who was way up in years. And he was telling me about going to these Harlem buffet flats and sex circuses, he called them.
What's a buffet flat?
A buffet flat...
They serve food?
Not at all. It was a buffet.
What's so funny?
Not that type of food.
What kind of food?
Well, you can eat.
All I can eat. Was there chicken wings on the menu too? Or chicken?
No, mainly fish.
I see. It was a lesbian thing, huh?
I haven't been there. I don't know. I've heard.
Pray tell. We've heard pray tell that, people of all sexual varieties can do literally anything goes.
Anything.
Wasn't that a Cole Porter song?
Oh, it sure was.
Cole Porter was married to an understanding woman.
But I thought he was gay.
Well, that's why she was understanding.
Understanding.
I see. How understanding?
Oh, very, very understanding. Yeah.
So tell me, Cole Porter was one of your authors of songs, that were performed tonight in tonight's show.
Right. Okay, so Cole Porter, who was as great a songwriter as America's ever produced, wrote countless Broadway hits from Kiss Me Kate to Anything Goes and all that. Okay, he was a gay man all this time. He was married to a woman who knew...
A real woman?
Yes, and she knew this is who he was, and so she was supportive of him as a friendly wife, but knew that sexually he had to fulfill himself with these guys. And so some of the hit songs he wrote were written for specific guys that he loved and stuff like that.
Like?
And, well, some of them weren't famous. Some of them was just a soldier who went off in World War II, and for him he wrote the song You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To.
And that's one of the songs in the show.
One of the songs in the show. But also I'd hear these stories like... I was friends with David Cassidy, and David Cassidy's father, Jack Cassidy, who was a dashing, handsome Broadway actor. And
David Cassidy and his brother were on my TV show for Blood Brothers.
Right, absolutely. And while they were on your show, at that same period, I was ghostwriting David's autobiography. But his father,
Jack Cassidy,
who was a dashing, handsome star on Broadway and films and things like that, and was married.
He was gay too, wasn't he?
I was getting to that. His father would go up and entertain Cole Porter, who was an older man. So all these things, there's overlaps from past to present. In my life, I'd hear these different things from different places and stuff like that.
All right, so tell me all of the songs in the show and who wrote them.
We have a mix of songs. There are some songs going back to Ma Rainey, who was the original mother of the blues, the first blues singer to record in America. We have a Cole Porter.
I simply adore a secluded corner, my cozy corner in the Ritz Hotel. Where I wander each afternoon for tea, cause I like to see the kings and let the queen see me.
We have Noel Coward.
Witty boys, you may sneer at our disintegration. Haughty boys, naughty boys, dear, swooning without
I wrote some original songs. These songs like Sidekick.
Sidekick. I just wanna be a sidekick. A superhero sidekick. That's the life for me.
And You Need to Be Loved, Be Happy. And
You need to be loved with that grin on your face. And I have a grin on my face for the whole human race. You need to give love to be happy. And I'm the happiest lad that I know. Gee, I know what you're thinking.
Crazy for My Baby in a Uniform.
Crazy for my baby in a uniform. That patriotic baby of 1, 2, 3. It's good from fore to aft. I wanna bring back the draft to see more guys with that kind of spit and polish and shine.
An ex-gay.
Ex-gay, I'm proud to say that I'm an ex-gay. In every way I'm an ex-gay. I've been thoroughly saved, and I can save you too.
Those are songs I wrote. Some of the blues songs I just adapted and arranged them. But it was nice to know that there were songs of gay rights in Germany in 1930, that Ma Rainey was singing a lesbian number. It's right up here. This is the original ad, Prove It On Me Blues. I mean, the woman is very recognizable even now. And they were advertising that in the black press in the 20s. The white press didn't know it existed. But you asked
I mean, what? Gay?
the white press would not have been aware that there were gay songs being done in the 20s by black artists because these were only being marketed in the black community. But you asked before about a buffet flat. Let me just explain a little clearer. A buffet flat in Harlem, somebody would have a private party at their home. People, they charge admission to the party. In different rooms, they could see a guy having sex with a gal having sex with a gal, a guy having sex with a guy. They could watch or they could participate. And so this older jazz musician who I liked, I was profiling him for a book of mine.
You met him?
Oh, yes.
What was his name?
Benny Waters. I have a chapter on him in my book, Voices of the Jazz Age. And in it, he mentioned, just so casually, just like he'd mentioned at one breath, we were having cutting contests and playing instruments with the other jazz musicians. In the next breath, he'd mention, and we went to this, these sex circuses, these buffet flats, and he said there was a gal, he says, or a guy. She was a hermaphrodite. She had sex organs of both sexes. The first time I ever met a hermaphrodite, and she was attracted to him, or whatever.
She had hot and cold running water, right?
Absolutely. I said, well, Benny, what did you do? He said, I did my best to please him, her. And I just took it down. He said, back in those days, I had so much sex it burst my appendix, which was a cute.
Wait a minute. Do they have electricity that ran AC, DC then?
He was just accepting of the situation as it was. It wasn't worrying about, do I define it this way or do I define it that way? So when I'd hear these different stories, they'd lodge in my head. He'd tell me something, somebody else would tell me something, and eventually I said, this has never been set down. Nobody had ever made the connection before. I think every major female jazz singer and blues singer had a bisexual or lesbian side. I'd never seen that.
If you bought them something, I mean, were they bisexual?
Barry,
You know that term, bisexual. Buy me something and I'll be bisexual.
Anyway, but all these great artists, from Bessie Smith to Rob Rainey to Billie Holiday, and I'd never seen that noted. So I said, that belongs in there as a little fact, and we want to get these songs. And we don't have fun, but we want to educate people.
I learned so much from the show that it was incredible. First of all, I loved the movie Lady Sings the Blues with Diana Ross about the life and times of Billie Holiday. I almost said Bessie Smith, and she was also gay, right?
Gay or bisexual. I mean, Bessie Smith had men in her life, but she was also having these romances with the chorus girls. Billie Holiday, in the movie, it's just guys in her life, but in real life, it was her with Tallulah Bankhead. I mean, different, who was a great movie star and stage star in that time. Improbable pairings, you know what I mean? And this is part of our history that sort of got swept under the rug. And I wanted to pull that out. It's just so much a part of our life. And so we want to bring in a little of the history. That's why we have here Tallulah Bankhead's represented on the wall. And
Who else?
Marlene Dietrich's up on the wall. Ma Rainey. Ma Rainey. I find this little newspaper article clipping in the 20s saying Ma Rainey was arrested for running a disorderly party with women. Now that's pretty clear in the 1920s.
Wait a minute, pretty queer.
pretty, yes, but there she was, the Empress of the Blues, running a disorderly party with women, and she gets to make a phone call, and she calls Bessie Smith, who's the greatest rival in among the two blues singers, and Bessie Smith comes to bail her out, and there were rumors from the people in the old timers saying that they had been lovers at one point, as well as being rival blues singers and stuff like that. So it was fascinating to me, this underground history. You know?
Wasn't there an off-Broadway show called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom? Absolutely. What did that discuss or, sum up?
Absolutely. Well, she
was a bottom?
No. She had a hit song called The Black Bottom, but it was also like she was very independent. She would say, if they don't like what I'm doing, they can kiss my black. Anyway, the song.
Black ass.
Whatever. She was, in those days, the blacks were treated very badly, and they used to work on a circuit. They couldn't make the top theaters. They'd work on what they called the TOBA circuit, and it was called, officially it stood for Theater Owners Booking Association. It was the Theater Association of the Black Theaters for the black artists, but they called it, the black artists said TOBA stood for Tough on Black Axes, and because they were going to get paid less, they'd be in the worst theaters and stuff like that. But there they were, and it was interesting that I knew old jazz musicians who had worked with them, who had worked with Bessie Smith and Ma Rainey. I knew Freddie Moore, I knew Doc Cheatham, I knew these people who had the inside stories, and they knew.
Were they the Chitlin circuit too?
Yes. But this was even. Sometimes they'd rise above it and get to a moment of recognition to the general public. Bessie Smith got to make a film, but most of it was, playing these black theaters and stuff like that. But I'd hear from these people who worked with her and stuff like that about the chorus girl who tried to commit suicide because Bessie Smith spurned her, and these stories would stay in my head. Her niece was around to recall these stories. Her niece toured with her, the showgirl of the Buffet Flats and the male and the female lovers. And I said, okay, we touch on all this briefly in the show. It's not a history lesson, but I want to have...
Oh, yes, it is a history lesson.
Just a history lesson. I want to have moments for people to say, Cody's irresistible, and look at what Toby's doing, look at what Maite's doing, and look at what whoever is doing, Michael Chiz is doing. I want them to have entertainment for entertainment's sake, and when I wrote this little song, Crazy for My Baby in a Uniform, I said, okay, the dance break will
You wrote that song?
I wrote that song.
I thought it was written years ago.
No, I wrote that song. I said I'm going to have them all dancing, doing a military time step. It'll be just fun entertainment. That's not educational. That's just trying to be entertainment for entertainment's sake. But that it could be a guy writing a song for a friend to star in a military boarding school. Why not?
So this is a gay music history lesson, right?
And it's a fun show. We want it to be both. I want it to be a show anybody can enjoy, gay or straight. We have a wonderful cast, both gay and straight, whatever. Just people who are talented. I want it to be entertainment, and I want it to be educational.
Now, there's some personalization with your characters. I should say your actors in this, in the sense that they talk about being gay themselves.
It's a script. They may or may not be gay in real life,
Well, who's gay and who's not?
I don't know if that's up to our personal discretion.
I see. But it seems that your own personal lives are integrated into the show.
Oh, very much so. That's one of the really wonderful things about working with this is there's a lot of material that does hit home in a variety of ways. And it all just really at the end of the day comes down to how much all of these characters in the show love what they're doing, and we love what we do, and how...
And you do it so well.
Thank you. Thematically, everyone in the show, all the characters in the show are trying to define themselves as individuals, as people in this world of chaos and confusion. And I think that's something that a lot of people can really latch on to.
Let's start with you. Tell me your real name, and tell me your stage name, or the name you use in the play, or do you have a name, and the numbers you sing.
My name's Cody Jordan. No stage name. I play Seth Oscar, and I have quite a few. There's Ain't
Nobody's Business, no?
I ain't gonna give nobody none of my jelly roll. What's the next one? I'm trying to think.
How big is that jelly roll?
It varies night to night.
Show to show.
Show to show. It can get bigger.
This jelly roll is sweet, it's surely hard to beat. I know you want it, you can have it, and I ain't gonna give you none.
And I sing Help, the Girls Are After Me.
Help, oh, the girls are after me. Help,
And then next, there's so many.
Yeah, you have a lot.
There's
That's a lot, huh?
yeah, there's
Can
overall.
you handle all of it?
Yeah, I do it night after night. Like the impeccable thing that we like, this amazing gift that we've been given is the show has about 42 songs in its entirety.
What? 42 songs?
I think Cody's part of most of them.
So we've been given a really great, genuinely awesome gift that
From God.
from yeah,
Chip to Fa.
Jaffa himself. And so
Theater God.
oh yes, he is. So we've been given all of this wonderful classic material. Many of
Did you know it was classic material?
yeah,
Did.
yeah.
How did you know? How old are you? 12?
I'm 23. Thank you very much. I've been around.
How do you? I'm sure you've been around and around. No, but that's a song too, right?
Been around.
Been around.
Yeah, been around and around and around and around. But anyway, how are you familiar with this material? You must have done research, right?
For most of the material, I wasn't very familiar with because Chip selected some really wonderful songs that weren't very common. That there was a few of them that didn't even have sheet music written to them. He had someone transcribe them.
Sheet.
Sheet music?
No, oh, sheet.
Oh, sheet.
I got it.
What did you do? How did you? Thank you. You're the preacher. You should know.
I am the Reverend William S. Love, and I'm here to save you all from your most damnable homosexual tendencies.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
God be praised. Oh, wait a minute. You said you didn't have sheet music for some of these.
They were transcribed prior to rehearsal.
Like who? Helen Keller?
I don't know, Chip. Who did the
I
transcription?
don't mean Helen Keller, but I mean who did the
I had
transcribing?
to get different people to take the numbers down off records because they were never written out of sheet music. Sheet music didn't exist. In some cases, someone went in and recorded, say, a blues song. They may never have written it down. They may have made it up in the studio for all we know, or on a gig, and they made a record. And from that record, and maybe there were a few records with different versions of the song, and I had to create from that a representative version of it, and make an arrangement. So
Are they on disc to this day or no?
we
Were these the old Columbia recordings from 100 years ago or what?
Yeah. In some cases, we're talking about blues records that may have been made in the 20s and 30s that no one wrote that song down. And so if we wanted to play it in the show, I had to have somebody take down that melody, and we had to arrange. In some cases, I'd listen to 3 versions of Sissy Man Blues.
I believe I'll go back home. Said I believe I'll go back home. You oughta be my good girl, yeah you should, 'cause I've done you no wrong.
And then try to make one representative version.
How did you know there were songs like this that existed?
Little over the years, because it was my curiosity, and I was into jazz. I was for many years the jazz critic of the New York Post, and I wrote books on jazz and music.
What about the post cabaret section?
I covered jazz and cabaret and theater for the Post. So the love I had for old time music and stuff, and digging into these things, and somebody would tell me a story. Like, I'll give you a small example. I'm up at Lionel Hampton's house. He was the great band leader, the king of the vibraphones. He had an amazing big band for over half a century, right? And I'm up at his house, and he starts telling me about his uncle, who was a bootlegger for whom he worked before he became a famous musician as a bootlegger, but he also was Bessie Smith's driver. He was driving the car when Bessie Smith has the accident that kills her, and they try to take her. They can't get her good medical care because the best hospitals in that area in the South where the accident was would only admit whites, and they have to. All she's going to get is a second-rate hospital, second-rate care after the white passenger hits her car. He's taken to a hospital first because whites are treated first, and he goes to the best hospital. And I'm hearing this firsthand from Lionel Hampton, whose uncle was driving that car, and little things. I mean, all these things. And he would say, "Chip, I love your spirit. Come out to my jazz festival in Idaho." And I wound up giving a lecture out there on Bessie Smith, but it was partly on stuff that Lionel had told me and different ones. Anyway, all this stuff goes into your store of knowledge, and eventually, under pressure, I was doing this festival, and when somebody dropped out and left me a space open, I said, "I'll do a show about these gay songs, and we'll throw it together quickly. We had to open in 3 weeks, so we did it while we were rehearsing.
What was this here in New York?
At the Shoshama Theater. You were there. You were there. And then that was just a short little festival. And then I said, eventually, when Tommy Tune said it, let's make it a real show. And then I had to think a little bit more. And little stuff that stuck in my head, like I loved that America the Beautiful. Was it's still a beautiful, uplifting song, and it's about togetherness. And
And who wrote that?
well, the woman was a lesbian, and she was a Wellesley professor, and she had a lover of 25 years. And I said, okay, that's part of her history. When people try,
How'd you find that out?
someplace or another, all these things come out. A book, a historian, someplace, and it's just connecting the dots from all these random sources of different ones telling me, whatever. I was asked to do a chapter on Bessie Smith in a book called Harlem Speaks. So you get your period when I'm just researching Bessie Smith. Another time, maybe I'm researching Cole Porter because I'm thinking maybe I'll do a show on Cole Porter. And I suddenly discover I could do a whole show of Cole Porter numbers that have a gay connection, that have a gay coded message or something like that. That would be a whole show in itself. Instead, I just put in maybe 2 Cole Porter numbers here or 3 Cole Porter.
Nobody in history or in music history has ever connected the dots like you have.
I'm saying it was fun to put a lot of these dots together that had never been connected, that were sort of running around in my head, and I was forced to do it really quickly under pressure. I did this festival. It was fun. I did a festival to have. I took over 2 theaters on 42nd Street, and I wanted to produce. I produced about 25 shows in 6
Gay shows?
No, 25 shows of all kinds. That was the only gay show in 6 weeks. The point of the festival was to showcase friends of mine. One's a choreographer, one's a composer, and all that. Some of these people dropped out at the last minute. They got cold feet and said, my musical's not ready to be seen yet. A lot of people got cold feet and dropped out. So suddenly I had to create like about 5 different shows on the fly that were going to open in 3 weeks, or we'd have theater space that I had reserved for me that with no show there, and we had to have somebody come in to sell tickets at the door. So I'm saying to some friends of mine who were doing my George M. Cohan show, listen, can you double and also be in this gay musical show I'm going to do? And so I got different people, Suzanne Dressler, Christy Cates, whoever, Ellery Bacchitis, a fellow who walked in off the street. I said, we're going to put together this show and do it really fast, and you're going to learn these gay and lesbian songs.
How long ago was that?
I've lost track of the exact year, but it's
10 years ago plus.
that. But we threw it together so quickly, and we threw together the Cohan thing so quickly. And then there was interest in somebody else says, let's do the Cohan here, and somebody else says, let's do this. So these shows I created under pressure out of necessity because friends of mine, talented friends, said, give me another year to work on my choreography. Give me another year to do a show, my musical. I'm saying, we'll present a first act of your musical, do a reading of your musical. And they said, do it next year, present me. I said, you might not have the chance next year. And they chickened out. And Carol Channing, who's I've learned more.
Carol Channing, the Carol Channing.
More from than anyone in the world predicted this would happen. She said, with every show, overcast, every recording album you do, if you need 10 people, cast 15. Like in this show, I had another fellow cast to double one of the roles, and he dropped out 3 days before. She told me, expect that to happen. You don't know.
Shame on him.
No, they will get, the fears will overtake them.
Stage fright.
Yes, a form of it. Every time I do a recording, usually somebody drops out the last minute. We'll say the day of the recording, one fellow, most beautiful voice I ever heard, the day the recording session comes, he says, Chip, I can't record today. I have a virus. I said, just come in. Maybe you'll sound good.
Gay virus?
No, listen.
I have that too,
No. It was all in his head. And I said, I will pick a day, any day in the next 3 weeks. I will record you. I'll book the recording studio any day you pick in the next 3 weeks. He says, Chip, it's the kind of virus that lasts 3 weeks. He was scared to record. He was scared.
That was the whole length of the show.
Well, so I knew. It was like Carol Channing said, he was just scared. Do you know what I mean? His virus was going to last whatever was needed to get him out of.
Shame on him.
But another time, forgive me for mentioning a competitor's name, another time I'm on the Joey Reynolds show.
Joey who?
That's all right. Another radio show. And
You sure it wasn't the Joe Franklin show?
And a guy supposed to sing live on radio, 200 markets, and Joey's building up, saying, I saw him in the show. He sings so wonderfully, and we've got the track queued up. He's going to sing the song he does in the show. And at that moment, the guy froze, and he said,
Who was it?
He said, I can't sing tonight, Joey. My voice is just toast. And Joey points to Baby Jane Dexter and says, you sing the song. It wasn't her song, but she'd heard him sing enough that the track was queued up for her. It wasn't her song or her key. She starts singing. He says, bring her anytime. Don't ever bring him again.
What was his name?
I'm not going to say it because
Maybe a little butter on the toast would have worked.
yes, my voice is just toast.
Oh, my
I
God.
remember that moment so clearly. I'm like, oh no, I'm watching a career end right in front of my eyes when he could have been singing in 200 markets and somebody in Los Angeles could have heard it and said, that's a great voice. And Joey's been building up saying he was the best guy in the show. I brought him on my radio show because I saw him in Chip's show. And the moment came and he was like, I can't do it.
Stage fright, huh?
Listen,
OMG.
it happens. But Carol Channing would tell me this. So anyway, people dropped out of my
So
festival.
she could have gone on for him, no?
Listen, in Theater Boys, she went on. Theater Boys.
Wait a minute. Did she go on stage for one of your theater boys?
She recorded for me. She never did this for anybody else. She recorded for me spoken tracks, and we used them in every performance of Theater Voice. It was the voice of Carol Channing. I had somebody in the audience ask me, where'd you get that Carol Channing imitator? It sounds exactly like her.
It wasn't Richard Skipper, right?
No, it sounds much more like Carol Channing than Richard Skipper. It was the real Carol Channing.
Oh, my
and I love Richard, but there's no mistaking Carol Channing. It was her wisdom, too. And I played the full tape, and it makes me cry because I asked her to record a few lines, but instead when she starts out, she says, Chip Defa, I love you, and all these things on it, and I'm like the greatest gift anybody ever gave me. But she gave me all these things. So she told me, like I'm casting this show, she says, how many are in your cast? And if I say there's 10 people, she says, cast 20. You're going to lose them. They're going to drop out. They're going to be afraid. This way, when they drop out, you'll still get the run through the show. And that's exactly what happened. Exactly. When this one drops out and that one drops out.
Great advice.
Every day, her words echo in my head. She's always given me great advice.
You know what words echo in my head that she said to me once when I interviewed her? I said to her, you just got married at the age of like 98. Well, maybe a little younger than 98, 92 or whatever.
Yeah, whatever, yes.
And I said, so how do you do it, Viagra? She said, excuse me, Barry, excuse me. I don't need Viagra, me and my husband. I said, what do you need then? Just a lot of rest.
I love it.
She didn't need Viagra.
She didn't. I love Carol Channing and that husband of hers that was Harry Collegian.
That was him. Yeah.
Harry is so great now Carol, if you look at my backdrop, where's Carol? Here she is.
Carol.
I would not
Carol
know-
Channing. Look, Carol is right here.
In one of my other shows, there's a reference to a vaudevillian, Harry Collegian, and she says, now, Chip, Harry was never in vaudeville. I said, of course I know it. That's like an inside joke.
Do a good Carol.
Will know that I'm only putting his name in because the character, just like in most of my shows, there's a character named Miss Lambert. And that's my tribute to my friend Lisa Lambert. So today we presented the Lisa Lambert Award to the gal who actually plays Miss Lambert, which is Maite Uzal.
Let me go back to your fabulous cast here. So, did you tell us about your character that you play in this? It's the same character throughout the whole show, right?
It's there's kind of like a part of Act 1 is a show within a show.
Well, you play an apple salesman, right?
Yeah.
Does the apple have a stem on it or no?
Yes, they all have stems.
Okay.
Yes.
Is this character, the apple seller, the character you play throughout the show or pay tribute to?
No, the apple seller is just in the show within the show. Throughout the rest of the show, I play a character named Seth, which is based off of someone Chip's very admiration. Admires. There we are.
You had admiration for. Myers.
No, Seth Sykes.
Okay. So anyway, you play an apple salesman. There were no worms in those apples, right?
No worms. Not today.
Big stems.
Very big stems.
And we told.
Size is a recurring theme in these shows. Yes.
Size does matter. Anyway, doesn't it?
It can.
Yeah, it can. And how tall are you?
5'7"? That's a good question, actually. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can I ask your mom?
She might not know either.
Now, anyway, so you told us all the songs you sang in the show?
Most of them, yeah.
Okay. Did we leave any out?
I'm sure we have, but there's so many.
You didn't dance. I didn't see you tap dance. What happened?
I can't tap dance. There's just something. It's just like you tell me to Buffalo, and I think
Buffalo. I mean, road. What's that? line. Romanoff to Buffalo or something?
Yeah, Shuffle Off to Buffalo. I don't.
Buffalo off to Buffalo. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 42nd Street, isn't it?
But he can play the ukulele. If we had brought that, it would have charmed you. Another show we're going to.
In the nude, you can play the ukulele.
I can play the ukulele. Yes.
In the nude?
With or without clothes, I think it's about all the same,
You
stylistically.
use the strings on the ukulele.
Yes.
Wow, good for you. Now tell me your name. You're the Reverend, right?
I am the Reverend. I'm Toby Medlin.
What do you know about being a Reverend?
Well, I actually come from a very Christian background. Went to Christian.
You're not Jewish?
I'm not Jewish.
Why do you look Jewish?
But
From the waist down.
from the way. Well, hopefully you didn't see that much of me on the show. But no, I come from a very Christian background. So
Hallelujah.
hallelujah. So it's definitely a part that is easy for me to slide into, and I really enjoy representing issues that I've had while growing up.
What issues?
Just
Sliding issues? You can get KY for that.
no, like with this show being all about this gay history and how
I thought you were going to say all about Eve.
how rich it is and how art was really
Rich in music. The founding fathers' music, right?
yeah, like how gay culture lived and really seeded in art because that was the only way they could do it. And it's funny how American culture just tries to ignore that it even existed way back then.
I
And
mean, the gay part of culture.
yeah, exactly. And I really like representing that sour side of what the world has come to today, and
What does it come to?
fun at it in a way.
What does it come to the world?
Just how we're how we beat down gay liberation so much.
Music or gay music in America is more than I'm coming out.
Yes. How there's so much to it, and they
This traces the history of gay music, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Amongst the black performers.
yeah, and even
They
in
were the first.
yeah to reveal it to
Reveal what?
this more blatantly about this culture of
What culture?
the gay culture, the one we're talking about, like and how I lost my train of thought.
Anyway, let's start again, okay? So tell us about these black performers who were first in line, not last in line, when it came to this black music that reflected the gay lifestyle.
Well, they didn't have as much prejudice against them. It was more easily accepted. Where white
People didn't know what the hell they were talking about or singing about, right?
in white culture, definitely. I'm sure most black culture was like, we know exactly what you're talking about, and that was probably kind of a fun little snigger they had with one another of like, these people aren't getting it because white people like to blind themselves so much to what's actually happening in the world, and I think the show does a good job at pointing even that little bit out. So it definitely, it's not to revolution. The show isn't to revolutionize culture and how we treat it, but it does shine a light on some less than savory things in our culture and our society.
Through the gay music that we heard. So this musical reflects gay culture or gay music or what?
Yeah, it represents a lot of subversive material that was going on
By the blacks.
by the blacks and
By the blacks.
by the blacks. Well, not just specifically, but by a nation full of people, specifically songwriters.
What time of the century?
Early 1900s. The oldest song I think we have is like maybe from the 1924 around.
Yes, and we have some songs in the show that go back to before the 1920s. And we also, there's a story Eubie Blake told me when he was almost 100 years old. There was a number he recorded, and he recorded it under the title of The Dream, because the record company said that's all you can record it as. But he said he first heard this number back in the 1890s, and it was played by a lot of the black ragtime pianists back then, and it was known to them as the Bull Dyke's Dream. And that was the way he knew that number, that this number was supposed to represent a Bull Dyke's Dream.
And it was performed tonight, wasn't it?
No, we just referenced it, but
What was the name of the song or the
it
title?
was called, in the 1890s, the black ragtime pianist played this number, was popular then. It was known to them as the Bull Dykes Dream. When he went to record it, it was, the record company said, we'll just call it The Dream, because they didn't want to, so they gave it this meaningless title. But many years later, like, Eubie by then was nearly 100 and very proud that he said he was satisfying both his wife and his girlfriend. But Eubie was proud of this, but he mentioned this song. I mean, all these things are part.
Gay culture?
Yes, but it was all matter of fact. It was
American culture.
That's what it was. To him, it was American culture, just like these black artists who were singing about their lives, whatever their lives were in the 20s. A pop guy writing a song for trying to make a big pop hit in America, a white pop song, he's going to write a song like Tea for Two, ba-dum, and Sugar Cake, and all this sort of nice pat stuff that's inoffensive and innocuous and all American can take, and he's trying to write a hit, so he's going to write, picture you upon my knee, just tea for two and two for tea. It's sweet and it's fine, and it's sort of a nice little fairy tale. These black artists who were out there thinking, I'm not going to have a hit record anyway, I'm going to sing about what my life is. And so if that person was Ma Rainey, so she want to say, went out last night with a crowd of my friends, they must have been women because I don't like the men's. If she wants to sing that, which she did in Prove It On Me Blues, that was what she was experiencing at that time. And she didn't care if that record was going to be a big hit or a small hit or anything, because there was a limit to how far she was going to go anyway. They weren't going to...
Companies didn't get wind of this, right?
Well, they were going to sell these records to black artists, and they didn't really care if the black artists were doing what they were doing or putting on those records. If they knew they could make some money by selling a record by a black singer to black artists, that was fine. And they weren't really necessarily knowing what they're putting out or caring, because it was considered like lesser importance. And some of those things have a vitality that survives all these years and has more substance to it than,
One quick question. A lot of the lyrics in some of these songs use the word gay, or did it use the word gay?
Now that's interesting too, because there are references to gay and unmistakable things long before that comes into popular culture. We didn't hear the word gay, the average white person growing up in America, till the gay liberation movement comes up.
The 60s.
Yes. That's when
The 1860s, the 1960s.
we wanted to look, you would not have seen the word gay in Life magazine prior to maybe 1967. Some book has exactly when it first appears in the mainstream magazines. But you can have, I've had older actors who said, it was known in the theater community in the 40s, and it was an older term then. And then you go back to someplace else, you find little things tracing it, and then you find a Noel Coward reference to these people, and we are the reason for the 90s being gay.
And as we are the reason for the 90s being gay, we'll all wear a green carnation.
And it's like an inside joke or an inside reference, but it was a word that didn't come into the mainstream till a certain time, but was known within certain circles.
So it eventually became the name of the lifestyle.
Yes, but it would have been known to a small community at an earlier point. I mean, it was fascinating to me to find.
But you don't know where the word gay in these lyrics came about or from who.
No. That's lost in it, but it's interesting. It's also.
But it always referred to something gay or of the same sex, right?
No, I mean, the word can be used all different ways, but it was interesting to find early references to it the way we think of it, and to have older people tell me I was hearing that within, say, theater circles in New York long before the public heard it or something like that. Or we could use as a coded message this or that so we could communicate with each other. And then also, it's interesting, like in the course of my research, I'm talking to an older lady who was dating in the 30s, was dating a movie star who was actually gay. And
Who's the movie star? She's dead, you can tell us now. Mae West?
It wasn't a great famous movie star and all that, but the point was, her thing was, I said, well, did you ever hear that he was gay?
Oh, it was a guy.
No, I asked her, because she was dating this guy, I said, and I'm asking a lady who's way up in years, near the end of her life, and she was, one of the high points of her life was that in the 30s, he would always take her to film openings and things like that, and he's a guy that I know from other reasons was gay. And I said to her, did you ever hear he was gay? And she said, I'd hear those things. And sometimes I even asked him, and he explained to me, it's just publicity. It's just publicity.
Rock Hudson?
It's just things people say. And she was satisfied. She so much wanted to hold on to that I didn't dare tell her, it might have been more than just, but it was.
Who was it?
Interesting to me that it reached her enough for her to ask. That was a bold thing for a woman to do in those days, saying, people have told me that you might have this other interest. And then on the other hand, in our modern times, one of my friends who's, again, a wonderful star in TV and films and stuff like that.
What's his name?
No, she was involved with a guy that's widely known in Hollywood to be bisexual and stuff like that.
What was her name?
Just a second. And I said, and she said to me, she never heard any of these rumors while she was involved with him. And then after she broke up with him, all these people would then come to her and say, hey, it's good you got rid of him, that two-timing guy, and tell her about all these guys he was with. She says, and I was like totally, the blinders were on so long as we were seeing each other, that he had this other life. And after it was over, she said, I felt like the whole world knew except for me.
Well, who was the guy?
Come on, tell me. I can't in these cases. There's reasons I can't, because people tell me some things in confidence, and I don't want to.
But I need an exclusive.
Let me think about that. Maybe there's somebody I can give you that.
Right back to you. What songs do you sing in the show?
I sing You Can Always Find a Little Sunshine in the YMCA.
Mother dear, although it's lonesome with you so far away, I can always find a little sunshine in the YMCA.
I like that one. I also sing most of Chip's...
Who wrote that song? The Village People?
No, Irving Berlin, actually.
He was a member of the Village People.
If you want to think so. Just because his last name? No. And I also sing songs that Chip has written, Sidekick and Ex-Gay. There's a little hint at what our show reaches to. And it's really, they're really funny parts that delve into this crazy psyche of the Reverend. I feel like I go absolutely insane at the end of the show, and it's...
Have you ever known anyone like this Reverend in your real life?
As a reverend, no, but in pop culture, it's very, very recognizable type of person who everyone will be like, yep, we know exactly who you're making fun of.
How tall are you, by the way?
I am 6'3", so very tall.
You're like Tommy too, no?
Tommy too. Yes, I am.
And you tap dance also.
I do. I really enjoy tap. It's one of my forte dances.
You also enjoy the theme of this show and the music?
I really do.
Why?
I really see myself in that old-time vaudeville or 1920s classic music theater kind of.
Did you do any research for the role of the Reverend?
Yeah, I did. But the second I got the script, I looked up all the music and looked up all these composers and songwriters that I didn't know, and then found so many songs that I was like, and this is going in my book for the future. Like throughout the show. And
you were incredible. All of you were incredible.
Thank you.
So let's talk to you. You are
Maite Yuzal.
Tell me about that name.
Well,
A drink called Mai Tai? Mai Tai.
Mai Tai. I'm from Spain. That's why the name is España. Madrid, Spain. Hello. Yes. Muchas gracias a ti, cariño.
You flew all the way in.
All the way across the ocean. Can you imagine? That's how drawn I was to the show. Like,
How'd you get the show?
sorry. Well, he saw me at my at an AMDA showcase. That's the American Musical and Dramatic Academy. And apparently I made a good impression on him. So he asked me to work with him in a previous show of his. No, I'm going to do it in the future. Yes, I know. Yeah, I've already talked to Cheetah. She's fine. She'll give me some tips. Yeah, so that's Exactly, and I studied musical theater at AMDA, and Chip saw me at my showcase, and then he asked me to do the previous show that he did here, which was Irving Berlin's Ragtime Review, and then he wanted to work with me again for the show. So that's the story. I'm hired, or I hide.
No, you're hired for the show.
Yes, I am.
Wow, what a great story. What are the songs that you sing in this?
I play multiple characters. I play at the beginning of the show. I'm
They're
Susan.
all gay, right? All the characters?
No, the Reverend's wife is not. She afterwards, towards the end, becomes a lesbian in view of what's happening.
Lesbian or Lebanese?
Lesbian that likes to go to Lebanon. Maybe with Shanice, with her new acquired girlfriend. So Suzanne, and she is a lesbian who's doing the show within the show. She's an actress, and she sings "He's So Unusual."
I would let him pet me, but the girl doesn't let me. He's so unusual, he drives me wild.
And then when I become the preacher's, the Reverend's wife, I really. We're
We're
engaged.
engaged.
Exactly.
We're
And
not-
no, sir. No,
no,
we're
no.
saving ourselves. Save the best for last.
I'm not drawn to sex.
No, he has
sexual
remarkably little
attraction.
interest in sex.
Yeah.
So we sing America the Beautiful. We sing the national anthem. We sing Give Me an Old Time Religion. And then towards the end, I have a little snippet of I Want to Be Bad.
When you're learning what lids are born, is it naughty to ask for more? Let a lady confess, I want to be bad, I want to be bad, I want to be bad.
America the Beautiful again.
Oh, beautiful, more spacious sky, more than the wings of grace.
And the finale, Let's Misbehave.
There's something wild about you, child, that's so contagious. Let's be outrageous, let's misbehave.
And that's it.
I have a question for all three.
Oh, yes, thank you for reminding me. And I do a duet with Catherine Paulson, Special Girlfriend.
There's no greater pleasure than to shop together. And the special girlfriend tells your special girlfriend, you're my special girlfriend.
To me, this is a gay history lesson, or a gay history lesson in music, right? What do you feel that somebody from the gay community can learn from this show in terms of, having idols, having inspiration, to be, so secure within being gay that this makes it okay? Gay is okay in the show.
And elsewhere, too.
Well, tell us why, or how does the show reflect that?
Like I said a little bit earlier, I think the beauty of and the power of this show is that there is ultimately by the end of the show, everyone has come to terms with accepting who they genuinely are as people, and no one is judging them. No one's saying, whatever. It's
You mean in real life, or
the context-
as far as the characters of the show go?
as far as the characters of the show go. And I think that's something really powerful that people can take with them, that it's like, you know what, that's their business, that's not my business. Life is life and love is love, and people are going to be who they're going to be whether you like it or not.
Answering your question, your last question, I think there are a lot of small, very beautiful references in the show that a gay person who comes in to watch the show can take with themselves. For example, when you ask, do you think there's a place for me in your show? And you're answered, there's a place for everybody in the theater. I think that applies also outside the theater. Because it's true that traditionally, for example, gay people have found a little refuge, a little safe haven in the theater. But I think that if theater reflects life and vice versa, that should be translated outside of the doors of this theater.
Also, it was very contemporary because not only did you talk about old nostalgic black and gay songs from way back, you talked about a lot of performers nowadays who are gay, like Christy McNichol, Anne Heche, right?
They're on our wall behind you. Yes, yes, yes.
Let's wind this up by saying that everybody should see Mad About the Boy. And why is it called Mad About the Boy?
Because we're mad about the boy. Because it's a Noel Coward song that we use as one of the main numbers in the show.
And gay just didn't become current right now. It's been around for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I did. Yeah. And I think the final, well, close to final song, Mad About the Boy.
Mad about the boy. I know it's stupid to be mad about the boy. I'm so ashamed of it, but must admit the sleepless nights I've had about the boy.
It just sums it all up of go ahead, be mad about the boy. Who cares? Kind of. Because, as you said, gay has been around forever. And it's not like it's a new thing that just came to light overnight.
So we hope everybody's mad about the boy here at the 13th Street Playhouse, right?
We hope so. Thanks, Barry.
And if Barry Z has anything to do with this, and I'm telling you 1-to-1, like the show is called, that we're not only going to take this to the next level, you know, to the St. Luke's Theater where I'm doing a live variety show and focus on your show in that show, but we're going to bring this to Broadway, God willing, and do a cast album. But you guys have to be in it. Okay. I ain't doing it.
If the spider's coming, we're in it.
From the
Anything before we leave?
Thank you,
Chip
Barry.
Tafar.
Thank you, Barry.
Award recently, right?
Oh, yeah, but
A lot of awards.
yeah, it's hard to keep track.
Okay. It's like a Tony Award now.
No, an ASCAP award. You know, I'm asking whatever. They're all today. Maite won the Lisa Lambert Award, so we're proud for
How
everybody.
do we contact all of you? Through Chip Tafar, right?
Through Chip Defy.
Chip to Fa.
Mad About the Boy.
Yes, and mad about the boy,
Do
essentially.
you do this in a translation for the Spanish community?
Loco por el chico.
I meant the whole show, all your numbers.
All my numbers, he's so unusual, would be Es tan raro. My special girlfriend would be mi novia especial, mi amiga especial. Lesbian madness, locura lésbica.
We'll do a Spanish version of this. How do they contact you? Through the Barry Z Show, right?
Or there's www.chiptafar.com. You know, but it's
That's your real name, right?
It's a pleasure to be here. Always.
It's a pleasure, you know. I mean, I want to see this go on and be on Broadway where it belongs.
Well, if you can help find us some investors, Barry, that would be cool.
What do you think, right?
Sounds
Yeah,
good
yeah,
to us.
Broadway or bust?
Broadway up
Broadway or
us.
bust.
Okay.